Hey guys, and welcome to our new Friday special, where we talk about stuff and things and stuff.
But not news. We're gonna have a little discussion about things we're currently into, what we're consuming as media consumers, and just share our views on it. Well, I am actually on the very last, it has finally come to this, the very last book of the Wheel of Time series. If you haven't already read the Wheel of Time series, what are you doing? Do you not read fantasy? It's pretty much the next kind of Tolkien. That's what everyone's always said about Robert Jordan. Unfortunately, he did pass, and that kind of left the last couple of books in question. Thankfully, another guy took up the helm, just like what happened with the Dune series with Frank Herbert. Kevin J. Anderson and Frank Herbert's son Brian took over and made a bunch of prequels, and it was wonderful. Got something new out of the series, and I'm really so happy because I would have been so depressed with how the books were ending. It was book 10 was the last one he completed fully, or book 11 rather was the one he fully completed before he unfortunately passed away due to, I think it was heart complications or something. Anyways, I digress. I'm on the last book, Memory of Light. It's so good. It's so hard reading these last books. I don't know, who out there has read a longer series like The Wheel of Time. When you get these last books, it's like you don't want to keep going, but you want to keep going. You have to know the answers, but you're terrified of what those answers will be. Throughout the series, with all the ones Robert Jordan has read, I've had a pretty good idea going into each book how it's going to end. I'm reading it, I'm like a quarter way through, I'm like, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen at the end of Memory of Light. It's been a pretty huge investment of time. The only thing bad I could say about them is that they tended to drag a bit. I understand, a few people have dropped out of this series. It's like Tolkien with his 3 books, Fellowship, and then Two Towers in Return. It's like, oh, they're walking, something happens, they're walking. Yeah, but that over 11 books. I'm really happy with what Brandon Sanderson has done with these books, because he's kind of picked up the pacing a bit. I feel like he's able to tie up the loose ends a lot better than Robert Jordan was able to. He's just able to form a little bit more coherent, a little bit more flowing timeline. And it's almost made it more of a pleasure instead of something I'm reading this because this is good, this is an important story to read. I'm really loving some parts of these books. I really can't wait to get through Memory of Light. I'm probably gonna try to power through it as fast as I can. Find out what happens with the Dark One. Will he be defeated? Will Ren die? He'll probably die and then just come back or something stupid like that. He likes to do that. Oh, the character's dead. Oh, he's back again. Classic fantasy. Another thing that tends to happening with these kind of big books is that you have a ton of characters that I'm getting to talk about, and the way he wrote the characters was brilliant. I just found myself just not caring a lot about the characters. Anytime Aes Sedai characters would come up, I freaking hate those people. But those characters are generally amazing to read. Matt is just freaking hysterical. That guy is amazing. Love that guy. He's so fun to read about. And it's almost like you want to just read more of these characters, and that's kind of, you run into this with any kind of book or any kind of media. You want things to just keep going, and that's kind of what makes this 14th Memory Light hard. It's gonna end. I spent this last few months reading this series, and that's gonna be over. Is the classic good versus evil, not as cut and dry as Tolkien was. He was very, technology bad, heroes good. Whatever. I don't know. I like Saruman. Come on, progress. But it's a little more complicated. The heroes go through things. Robert Jordan just loved to take his heroes and just strangle them and just kick them in the nuts and just horrible. It's gut wrenching reading this, and that's probably what makes them such amazing books, because you get so committed to these people. You get so invested in this struggle, and well, at least you think that good is gonna triumph, but you're reading these and you have no idea how that's even going to happen sometimes, how the good can triumph. But it's an important thing. The constant theme throughout this is, yes, the good will always triumph and evil will always undo itself. If you haven't actually continued reading the series, I would definitely suggest picking up the series. Again, the last 3 books, 12, 13, 14, with the new author, they have much better pacing, goes a lot quicker, but they're not missing anything. It's just a little bit more to it, and definitely worth getting back into and finishing it out. Because hey, you're gonna leave a series unfinished? What's wrong with you? Come on.
So the books that I most recently read were the Hunger Games trilogy, and it was my first foray into a dystopian universe. And it was scary and dark and depressing and brutal, and I'm sure it's not even the most brutal book I could ever read ever. So we're not gonna really divulge too much of the story here, just in case you haven't read these books or whatever. So basically what I really enjoyed about the book was the fact that Katniss does not have any control whatsoever over what she does. I mean, obviously in the first book she's chosen to be a tribute and gets thrown into this horrible fight to the death with children. It's interesting because in the second book she kind of gets to do what she wants in a way. The people who were very controlling over her and how she behaved to the public in her interviews and everything, like Haymitch and Effie, they just said, do what you want in this one, which was really strange. And then, you figure it out because what ends up happening. And then in the last book, she's completely controlled again, but you can tell she's just losing everything that is her, and she can't fight against it. She has to be this paragon for what all of the districts want. It's horrible for her because even though she just does not want this at all for herself, she does not want to be relied on and seen as the paragon, she has no choice, and she knows that if she doesn't do this, then things will be even worse for the other 12 districts. So what I really loved is that this book is sort of like a what if we continue down this horrendous media-driven, media mind control that we have going on today. In the capital, it's like complete commercialism and fakery, and it's all about your looks, and it's just ridiculous. It's a circus. And then the total control over all of the districts from one capital that completely and utterly controls all of the media that goes out, which is something that we question a lot today with our news channels. One of the things I didn't like about the books was that it was just so horrendous to children, and obviously that's, the biggest thing that could ever be horrendous is allowing our children to be put in a situation like that where they have to die, they have to fight to the friggin' death, and you have to do it. But obviously that is something I'm not supposed to like. The other thing I really wanted to know more about was President Snow and the whole history of why the first rising of the districts happened that led to them having to have the Hunger Games. But what we've noticed lately in a lot of TV shows and books and films is that our heroes, we like them to be more reluctant about being a hero nowadays. They don't just accept things, and Katniss is like prime example of this. She just completely breaks down and loses her shit.
And of course, Rand almost destroys the world.
So if you decide to read these books, be aware that you are not going to get this super happy ending. I mean, it is a dystopia. It's not going to be all flowers and rainbows and unicorns pooping shamrocks out of their butts.
Well, you generally have a different objective when you are reading a dystopian book. You're not reading it because you're looking for that, that fantasy tale, that wonderful hero's journey. It's a kind of a hero's journey usually, but you're looking for something that it's a little glimpse into a specific part of the human psyche. Like, what if we became so broken that we went down this path? Well, you read it for different reasons. So you're reading each of these, books, these series that we went into, you're reading for completely different reasons. It's
not unthinkable that we could actually go down this path, which is why I think people should read books like this so that we strive not to, so that we strive to be better people to each other and, support each other.
So we'd really like to know your guys' opinions on these books. If you have read them, if you've always been hankering and you just never committed yourself, you need to commit yourself.
Well, I mean, it's less of an investment in my case.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're like tiny little books. Like, those are like for kids. I mean, you gotta read real man books.
I literally read all 3 books in like 4.5 days. So...
not much of an investment, really. Just, bam, done.
Well, it's an investment of of the soul, Dan, and of the emotions. You're just dark.
Well, if you have read them, let us know how terribly your soul is scarred in the comments down below.
And if you've read the Wheel of Time series, let us know how you felt about Rand's ending. Don't tell Dan, though.
Do not spoil the ending. I'll hunt you down and kill you. I'm not joking. I'm joking.
You're
I'm not
joking. He's joking. He's joking. So thanks for watching this video, and hopefully we'll continue to do things like this. It won't always be books. We have a couple different subjects that we would like to cover every Friday, hopefully, for however long. Whatever. It's a thing, maybe. Alright, so we'll see you next week.